Do you do any, I mean, when you're doing the beads on the inside of that, do you do any offset, or do you try to make them in line with each other?
You do them in line, and that's the critical part. So now, this one here, this thicker bead is my rim. So what I'm going to end up doing, and I'd probably do it here. I'd actually turn this wood away, and I'd start to go in there, and I would try to make this bead. Well, you can look at this one real quick. I mean, see how what I've done here? This rim is a bigger bead than the other beads, and it just gives it a little bit more of a nice presence, because I typically then, if you look at that piece over there, then I would burn around the rim, and it makes it look like it's wrapped in something. That's the goal. Okay, so if you read this article from Harvey Meyer, he came up with a system of his, and I built it, and I don't like it. My indexing, I want when I'm coming down to a point right there, I want all my lines to just come into a single point. And so that's, you get kind of fanatic when you do this. I mean, you're fighting perfection almost. You can see when things work and when things don't work, and when you don't get the right bead in there and it's a flat spot, it comes back to haunt you when you're burning it. And so it just compounds, it seems like, if you don't do things properly, step by step by step. So what I did is Harvey Meyer, and it works for him. This is the system that he came up with as far as marking his indexing. Now, for this tool to work on this lathe, I'd have to drill another hole down here, shove the pencil in there so that it comes out perfectly centered on this piece, okay? And what I normally have done is he has you build this type of a system here, and so this thing slides around, and it can come around this back side and make the marks, and come around the front side and make the marks as well. This has a tendency a little bit to wobble. Is my pencil in there proper? This I didn't like. So we came up with a different system. This is my system. I don't have the pencil. Basically my pencil is going to slide on the top of this. This goes right into my tool holder. Like I said, I turned a real big bowl. My big bowl fits right into there like that, so that I can slide my pencil across, slide it in the front, and it makes a perfect line. Since this tool rest doesn't fit, I had to kind of come up with a design for tonight. And basically, here we go. So I didn't have a 5/8 inch dowel, so I just had to turn it. So here we go with that. The other thing that what we've got to do is, okay, so remember this I just printed off. Basically it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 12. That's how many this index is going to be. I just drilled a 1-inch hole so that it fits this. Glued it on spray adhesive, glue it on a piece of hardboard, and it's a 72 index disc.
Right here.
There it is. Okay, good. Let me see. So the other thing what I've got, this is where I had to we have to jury rig a little bit here. This fits my one-way system, so it's a 16-inch. So from here to here is 8 inches to dead center. So in order to kind of come up with the same system, we're using masking tape, and it should work. Also, on my one-way, I can just use these spring clamps. I don't have to clamp it like this, but this will work for tonight. Okay. Uh-oh. I didn't plan on this.
Don't forget to tighten your chuck.
Yeah, I know it, but let me just see here. Is this gonna... This may not work. Well, I guess what I can do
Turn it around to the back side.
is do the back side. I think you get the idea. We'll just struggle with it and see what happens here. This may... Okay, so this... Okay, I'm going to tighten this chuck here. Well, what we'll do is, I think what we're going to do is just index maybe here, just because this is not going to... This would have to be cut so that it allows this tool rest to this should have just fit, did fit in with my okay, so to index it requires a K-State pencil. No, in this case it requires a round pencil. Do not use the hexagon because, you know, there's a high point there, okay? So what we're going to try and do is then line this thing up. We're going to eyeball it, but if you were me, you would have already turned it and you would have known exactly where we are dead center, okay, from turning it. Okay, so I've put my masking tape here, and what I'm trying to do, normally this piece would come in contact with this, and I would spring clamp it, okay, so that it doesn't move on me while I'm making my pencil mark. Here I just can't really quite do it, so we'll just imagine that I'm spring clamping it. Right now what I'm trying to do is line up each mark with the top of my masking tape for tonight to make it work. And so what I'll do there is now I'm going to just do that line. If this was over more, I'd have a better system in doing the back side. Okay, so now we're going to just move it It's hard to predict what you run up against in a demo. Maybe what I'll do is just do the front. That way we're it's probably not going to be as perfect as I'd like, but that's okay.
How many indexes are you going for?
72. Now I'm not going to do all 72. I'm just going to show.
I went 72.
You know, when I do like 144, it may take me over an hour, but you know that hour spent getting these lines perfect helps me then to the next step, because now what I have to do is I have to go in and wood burn those lines. And when I wood burn, you can move on either side of the line if you've maybe created a little bit too much space on one side or the other. So,
Rick, you take all this time to be able to do this. What the heck do you have to sell a bowl for?
well, right now what I did is I entered 2 national juried art shows. One's in Overland Park, and I entered 4 pieces, and they picked 3. And then I entered another national juried art show, and the only thing they picked was my Native American squash blossom basket. And that's a big bowl, but it's done on both sides. And the only way to do that is to hollow turn it in 2 parts, because I can't get the tool back this far, so I have to do it in 2 parts. I have to turn this piece, and then I have to turn the upper piece, and then I have to make this cut so that it's a half a bead and it glues right on to the other half bead, and they marry. And so yeah.
Than trying to do it in the bottom of the cavern, the bottom of the bead.
Say again?
The bottom of the bead, instead of trying to do it at the top of the bead, do it at the bottom of the bead. Does it hide okay on the top, or would it be better in the bottom?
I've only done one. It didn't turn out absolutely perfect, but it's a good piece, and it was picked.
Yeah.
So the thing about what makes this really art is not this and what I'm doing now. It's now coming up with the design. So, you know, I print out my 72 or however many indexing this one is, and I get a blank piece of paper. Okay, now, good old color pencil time. You know, I'm thinking, okay, I'm gonna, and you know, and I come up with, you know, I come up with all kinds of just different ideas. I could have brought you 25 of these that I do. Do I like it? I don't think so. Maybe what if I do this? I'd rather screw up on this than go through then spending all the time that it takes to then color it in, because it takes a lot of time. It really does.
So you got to do your homework.
You got to do your homework. And that's the art part of it. Now again, what I try to do is a lot of my pieces, I'm trying to make them look like Native American baskets or plates. And so yeah, the fun thing was I grew up on the Navajo reservation when I was between 2nd grade and 6th grade. And so I've got a fondness for the Navajo. That happens to be a Navajo wedding basket design. Not that it's not the sunflower, but just the shape. And so that's what this is kind of all about. That coming up with in this particular one here, when I beaded this, or excuse me, when I indexed this, I thought, well, you know what? I had it in a vacuum chuck, okay? Have my vacuum chuck, because I turn the sphere, have it in a vacuum chuck, and I cut these lines here first. Then, this was going to be 72 index lines going through here. Well, I thought, well, shoot, why don't I just, in a vacuum chart, why don't I just do it all the way around and kill, you know, instead of just doing this side, you know, why don't I draw the line all the way completely? Well, I screwed up. This is only 71 lines. For some reason, I can only accurately do half a side. For me, it's just, so yeah, so I ended up with not having another space right there.
I noticed that.
Okay? So, I know you noticed that.
It's a hard crowd out there.
Okay?
Throw it at him.
Right. So,
Not looking.
you know, one of the things that I'm working on right now, last week I tried turning a baseball hat. I got pretty close. It's tough. But a baseball hat, if you look at it, it's got 6 segments. So after I turn that hat, does yours have 6 segments?
Yeah,
Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to try and do the 6 segments on there and do a slight carve so that it looks like it's been sewn and put together as a true baseball hat. So anyway, these are the things that I do all day long. Anyway, so let's just do a couple more of these and you'll get the idea of it.
Do they question your sanity?
Do you do anything else?
I do. I'm really a bowl maker, so I turn a lot of bowls and I sell them on Etsy. But I really like the art, and I do lots of different things. I can't do one thing. This is a phase, and it'll go away pretty soon, and I'll be doing something else. And there's so many things to do out there, and I will put a plug in for the AEW. Okay, so in 2005 was my breakout year. I ended up for Christmas, because I had a cheap little jet mini lathe. For Christmas, my wife bought me, actually I bought it and then put it under the tree from my wife. And it was this, I don't think it was DVDs back then. From Trent Bosch, it was called Something Illusion. And he made this, he turned this thing and I thought, God, and he used a rubber, he blew up a balloon in his hollow turning and he inserted this piece that he had soaked or he'd steam bent, and I thought it was the coolest thing. And at the end of this video, you could call up Trent and take a class, a 3-day class. And so that's what I did in March. Took this 3-day class on how to turn green wood. I had no idea what green wood really even was. And then I got my lathe in April. And then the AEW came in June. And I'm telling you, the AEW to me was like, it was unbelievable. I mean, there was this guy from France, Escalon, that does multi-axis turning stuff. Phil Irons, who actually lit some of his wood pieces on fire with this alcohol finish that he had. I must have spent over $1,000 in tools just on that particular symposium. It was a cool. This one guy did. He did marbling. Does everybody know what marbling is? It's where you take this big pan and you drop paint in there and you get these brushes or whatever and you create this marbling effect, and then he actually turned a piece of wood and then he dropped it in there and it marbled the entire piece, and then he hollowed out just a little bit on the middle part, and all the edge part was all marbled. It was amazing. And that's what the AEW is about, is I think just a lot of creativity. But there's guys, there's Woodturners there, Mahoney and Glenn Lucas is going to be here. If you've never, I mean, that guy is a genuine. I think Mahoney, Bosch, and Glenn Lucas are just salt of the earth type people. And so, anyway, yeah, I would say that I'm a bowl turner, but then I've kind of branched out and I do lots of things with carving. And from last time I do my nuts and bolts, but this is something that is kind of fun, especially when you're just doing the coloring. In order to do this piece, they don't make an India ink white except in this big, huge marking pen. So the only way that I could do this was to color the entire piece white first and then go back and individually color the black. And the tough part is when I was coloring the black on top of the white, it didn't absorb into the white like I wanted to, and so it was somewhat kind of tacky. And so if you look at this, you can kind of see some of my fingerprints on the white smudges. You see it? You seeing that? I know that. I knew these guys are really hard back here. But I'm sharing with you my mistakes. But we learn from our mistakes, and this is the very first one I ever did, and so I'm not going to make that mistake again next time. I know what to do. But anyway. This is kind of what I wanted to show you tonight, was just indexing. I think that you can, I've turned really cool bowls where, you know, it's all just a nice bowl with just 3 beads up here, or 5 beads. Do odd number. And then I index just those beads, and then I've multicolored them. And then the rest of the bowl I've used a milk paint, and I've used blue, and I've used terracotta, and different colors that really make the bowl almost look ceramic. And so those are things that you can do with indexing. I'm sure there's other things out there that you can do. The neat thing, the reason why I like this wheel is because I can sit down here and I can put this clamp right on that line where it comes in contact right at this point, and then if this was to set up right, I mean, I'm seeing both lines across here, everything's looking good, and I'm just constantly making my turns. And when you look at this, I've got a wide spot and a smaller spot and a wide spot and a smaller spot, and it's just because I just don't have my system set up right the way I'd want to tonight.
Could you take and make, instead of the slice, just make it a circle, so the circle just fits inside the bowl, and then go all the way through like this, and make one?
I guess I don't follow you.
Like what you did with the ball.
Like what you did, but instead of having this slice, take that away.
Yeah.
And make this a circle.
Sure.
A flat circle, and then you could go all the way across instead of doing one at a time.
Absolutely. You could do that, but the problem is you want to do the back.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, you kind of want to do them at the same time.
Oh, okay.
It just, that way your lines are perfectly, parallel. But I follow you. I mean, I did that with the ball. I had it this shape, and I pushed that up in there, and I did it, and it just, I don't know what happened. Something happened.
Didn't hold your mouth right.
Huh?
Didn't hold your mouth right.
That's right.
What do you burn it with when you?
Okay, so you buy these wood burners. They're called beaded burners. You can buy them at the razor tip burner sells them, and then also this and I have these ones. I don't know if he puts it in there. I think they're Optec. What I like about them, you can see the picture here.
Hold it over the,
Oh, sorry. There we go. Okay, so what I like about this burner is you got a lot of padding. Because I've used wood burners for like 4 hours, and sometimes those razor tips, they don't give you enough padding, you know, and your fingers are cooking, or mine are. So anyway, this Optec and that burner there doesn't show it. I wish he blew it up. It's in the curve of this bead. Okay? It's not a fish scale. Can't be. Fish scale is not going to work. It's a bead, and so it's got that shape, and you would set that in there, right on that line, because you're following your lines, and you're making that burn. And I wish I had brought one with me where I had burned some lines, but well, here we can just look at these. The one thing you want to try and control is your burns. You don't want to, like this one here is a little bit black for me. These are nice color. So what I ended up doing here is this is my index line here, right? Afterwards, I went back and I burned additional lines in there to make it look more baskety. Okay, so basically I burned the index line so that I knew which color I needed or where the brown color was going to go, and I colored that. After that coloring's all done, then I go back in and I burn additional lines.
Any kind of pattern?
Nope, no pattern, it's just a judgment thing. I mean, if you look at that piece over there, I mean, there's a lot of lines burned in there, but that gives it the baskety look. If you look at his work, let me see here if I've got a good picture. Well, maybe this one. He doesn't do that. Okay, so for me it's a struggle. Maybe it's a little thing, but he leaves each, you know, after he's burned that space, he then doesn't do it, except he goes back in this center and he does additional burn lines. Okay? So this looks more baskety to me here than this area over here. You agree? I mean, it's a.
yeah, well, we're gonna have, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to.
Okay.
Cut it.
So any questions, or did I help? I hope you learned something.
Yeah.
That was the intent.